Hello everybody and welcome back to A Royal Reader. My name is Cece and today I'm going to be talking about my most surprising reads of 2020. So in 2020 I had quite a few surprising books that I wasn't quite sure I was going to enjoy. I have 6 books on this list, and although some of them I did think I was going to enjoy, I just didn't expect myself to enjoy that much. So let's get into the books. So before we get into the books, I do just want to say, be sure to check out my Instagram and Twitter. Links are always in the description box. I am constantly talking about books over on both of those, and I'm constantly uploading pictures and things like that. So you definitely don't want to miss out on those, as well as clicking the subscribe button so you don't miss out on a video from me. So let's get into the books. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is one that I thought I was going to like, but I just didn't think I was going to like as much as I did, and that's going to be The Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackworth. So this was such a fun read. I really enjoyed this. So in this book we have our main character Claire, who is the head librarian of the Library of the Unwritten, which is based in hell. So in this library it holds all of the books that are unwritten, so unfinished books that authors have decided to cast aside, or they are books that have been half written, or books that are just never have been written, basically. A book can manifest its own character into real life, and it's up to Claire to ensure that they stay within the library and that they go back to their own books. But something happens and a character actually escapes and heads back to Earth to go and find his author. So when this happens, someone from hell higher up than what Claire is decides to send to her a demon to help her find this character and bring them back. There is also another artifact that is missing from the library, and it is something that the angels from heaven actually want. So it is up to Claire and her demon and her assistant Brevity to try and hunt down the character that's missing, as well as try and find that missing book that the angels from heaven want. There is a whole like cat and mouse game between Claire and her group and the angel that's trying to find them, and it was just a crazy fun time. There is a found families trope in this, and I really loved all of the characters. They all hold a soft spot in my heart. Leto is literally my favorite character out of the whole bunch. I loved him so much. And there is also this whole sort of traversing through these different sort of like places of peace that different cultures have. So in this there's obviously heaven and hell, but there is also the place called Valhalla, I think is how you pronounce it, and that's what the Vikings would say, that they would go to Valhalla to seek peace once they died. So we get to see a whole bunch of universes that different cultures and religions have as their place of peace and like their heaven. So I really enjoyed that, and I just this book was so much fun, and there were so many twists and turns, and I really loved this. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Loved it, and I really want to read the second book that's in the series. I'm not sure if it's like a sequel continuation or if it's just like a companion novel to this book. It's called Archive of the Forgotten, so I'm really excited to read that and I can't wait. The next book on my list is one that I haven't really seen a lot of people talking about, but it's one that I remember being quite popular back, I think, in 2016 when I tried for the first time doing booktube and then yeeted myself out of there. That is going to be Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is the first book in the Imperium trilogy, I think is how you pronounce it. So in this we have 2 timelines. We have the first timeline, which is set 100 years ago, and it follows our main character Riel, who has these magical powers that could possibly deem her as either the Sun Queen or the Blood Queen, and she's kept these a secret. But when her best friend, the prince of this land, is actually attacked and almost assassinated, she reveals her powers to the world and is then stuck in a series of trials that would then prove that if she is the Blood Queen or the Sun Queen. Flash forward like 100 or so years, I think it is. Oh no, it's 1,000 years. Wow, it's a long time. Flash forward 1,000 years and we follow our second main character called Eliana, I think is how you pronounce it. And she is, I guess, a sort of bounty hunter for this group of people who work under the Dark Lord. Is that what he is? I don't know. I don't know. There's a really bad guy that's ruling instead of, you know, whoever it was supposed to be. And as she is, you know, doing dirty work and stuff like that, there is a bunch of disappearances that happen throughout the town that are, you know, all of these girls are going missing and no one knows why, no one can find them. So Riel wants to try and find out who's doing it because she wants to try and save them. But then her mother ends up getting taken. And in doing so, she then discovers this guy who has been trying to like find her and find out what's going on, and she then finds herself caught up in this sort of rebellion that is trying to overthrow the dark whatever he is, I don't know. This was so interesting. This has angels in it, and it's not a typical type of angel that you would expect from like City of Bones or any other angel book that I can't think of. But this was such an interesting book. I really, really, really liked it. I am interested in both characters, and the ending of this was just mind-blowing. I love Eliana. She is such an amazing character, and her sense of loyalty that she has to her brother is really, really heartwarming, and I really, really enjoyed reading about it. I cannot wait to pick up the next book. I don't know when I'm going to get it, but I really want to. So yeah. Next on my list is one that I read just recently. I actually did a 24-hour reading vlog for it. So if you want to see it, then you can click the link this side. I don't know. But that's going to be If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Oh, this book! I loved it! So in this book, it is a dark academia murder mystery, like all dark academias are, except in this book, instead of the students being prestigious literary, you know, Latin students or whatever, they're actually Shakespeare kids. So they study Shakespeare and they put on plays and they're actors and stuff like that. So at the beginning of this book, we have our main character Oliver, who is just getting released out of prison, and he is approached by the detective who worked on his case, who has come and said to him, "Look, I'm retiring. I want to know what exactly happened all those years ago. Off the record, it won't matter. Just let me know what happened because I don't believe you." So then we have Oliver, who sort of takes us back, you know, 10 years ago to when he was at this school with his friends, and leads us up to the murder of his friend and then how he was involved. So this book was so good. I loved it so much. Thought I knew who was going to get killed. It's sort of obvious who gets killed, but like I found myself not caring. The biggest plot for me was trying to figure out who was the one who did it and why, and it was such a good book. I am a Shakespeare nerd, so I really, really enjoyed seeing all of the Shakespeare references and the passages that they talk to each other in, and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, and in this book, yes, they do talk about Shakespeare a lot, but it just fits so well. This book is literally the perfect Shakespeare tragedy, which I think is quite ironic considering it's a book about Shakespeare and they do plays and they're all tragedies and stuff like that. So yeah, really, really enjoyed this. If you guys are after a good dark academia that has, like, you know, the fall vibes and the mysteriousness and stuff like that, definitely pick this up. Next on this list is one that I have seen a lot of people bashing because they don't like it, and I'm just like, why? I loved it. And that's going to be The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. This was such a fun read. I think if you go into this not expecting a lot, you'll enjoy it more, because I think a lot of people went into this expecting it to be a dark romance, and like it was marketed as a Slytherin romance, and I think that has sort of given these people a predecessed, if that's even the word, I don't even know, notion of what the book is going to be. I knew that going into this, but I was also just thinking, this is just going to be a fun read. I'm not going to take it too seriously because of what everyone has been saying about it. And I found that is what made this book more enjoyable. So in this book, we have a main character, Alessandra, who is got her eyes set on the Shadow King, the king of this land, to kill him so she can take over the country and rule. She wants to be a queen. So she is not afraid of killing anybody. She's not afraid to get what she wants when she wants it. So she is a little bit of a morally grey character, and I really actually liked her sense of humour. I will admit that she does come across a little bit self-centered and a little bit arrogant, but this is a real guilty read for me, and I could not care less. She's also really in tune with her fashion, and she makes all of these dresses that have shorts which are not supposed to, you know, be worn because of the time period that it's set in. People then start following her trend, and I just thought that was really cool, and it was unique to see that she had a hobby and a passion that she was interested in, because most of the times in these books we don't really see our main characters have a passion apart from like either reading or cooking or eating, you know, stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and it was interesting to see them sort of open up towards each other, and I really liked it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I just enjoyed it, okay? I didn't think too much of it when I was going and reading it, so I think if you are hesitant to pick this up because of everything that everybody has said, lower your expectations a little bit and you might enjoy it. So the next book on my list is one that I was pleasantly surprised about being a book that I gave almost 5 stars to, and that's going to be Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. Ugh, I love this book. If you guys have not seen my reading vlog for this book, I will be sure to leave it up in the cards somewhere. I think it's this side. I'm not entirely too sure. This is a middle grade. It is a middle grade fantasy following our main character, Morrigan Crow, who is a cursed child, and on the eve of her 11th birthday, she is sent to die. She is said to die, sorry. That changes when a man called Jupiter North knocks on her door and says that she is going to be his assistant, and whisks her away to the land of Nevermore, where she has to compete in these trials to be accepted into the Wondrous Society. She's not entirely too sure why Jupiter wants her to compete in these trials, but he keeps telling her that she's special and that she has these magical abilities that will make her be like the best person in the world. This book was such a fun read. I had like the biggest nostalgic feeling while reading this, but also this book isn't written like a middle grade, if that makes sense. Our main character, she's like 11 or 12 or something along those lines, and it does not feel like it's dumbed down whatsoever. The writing is really, really easy to read, but it's also not dumbed down, so that makes it more interesting to read, in my opinion. If you guys are interested in reading this but you're sort of like hesitant because it's a middle grade, I just say pick it up, because it's honestly, it's one of the best books that I have read this year. Like, spoiler for that video, but this book's gonna be on that list. The characters in this are so unique and interesting, and Morrigan herself is an interesting character as well, because she has to deal with all of these things that are happening to her that no 11-year-old should deal with, but she takes them in her stride, and she is just such a strong character that I really actually admire. The second book goes into a little bit more of a darker theme, and I really appreciate that for a middle grade, because it teaches children about stuff like that could happen. As she's a cursed child, she has had to deal with a lot of misconceptions towards her and a lot of bullying, and it just shows kids who read this book that this is how people can feel if they are being bullied, and it shouldn't happen. I really felt a connection with Morrigan, especially in the second book in the series, so I love this book with like all my heart, and I am so happy that I read it. I read it within like 2 days, I think. It was such a good book. Pick it up, please. It's such an amazing series, and I cannot wait. I think there's supposed to be, I think, 9 books in this series. I'm not entirely too sure. I believe there's going to be like, you know, 3 different arcs for each one, and so this year the last book came out, which is called Hollowpox. Have not read it yet. Really want to, but I am excited. I think the series is also going to get a little bit older because Morrigan, I think she grows, she's growing up as the series continues, so she should be about 16 by the next trilogy ends, so that should be interesting to see what Morrigan ends up being like as a young adult. So I am super excited for this, but be warned, it gets pretty dark. Gets pretty dark for middle grade, not gonna lie. And the last book that I have on this list is one that I thought I was gonna like, but you know, you never really know until you pick it up, you know? And that is going to be The Deal with the Elf King. This was such a good book. It was such a good book. I loved it so much. I thought I was gonna give it like a 4-star, but I ended up giving a 5-star. I loved it so much. So in this, we have a main character, Luella, who lives in a town that is beside where the elves live, and every 100 years the elves will come and they will pick a girl who will be their human queen. This is so that the magic in the world is able to be like rejuvenated, and so that this thing that they call the Fade, which I guess is just like this mist barrier that separates the two, it can get overwhelming and sort of give the humans a sickness. The human queen needs to be taken to the elf lands in order to help stop that sickness from happening and sort of keep the world in balance and stuff like that. In this book, there is no human queen. She has not presented herself and she is sort of missing at this point in time. And when the elf king comes to, you know, bring her to the elf lands, there is no one there, so he decides to pick Luella. Luella is then dragged away to the elf lands with like no sudden warning or anything, and she is forced to live in the elf lands and is forced into learning about the sort of kingdom and the way that her powers are supposed to work and stuff like that, because she's had no training whatsoever when she was younger because she didn't know she was the human queen. It's so good! Luella is such a sassy character who does not take no shit from no one, and it is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Like, she slaps an elf prince. She is such a feisty character without being that like cocky, arrogant feisty, if that makes sense. And she is so loyal to her ideals and what she thinks and what she wants to be able to give to the world and stuff like that. She is the sort of town healer where she's from, and she's so adamant about trying to stay to that role and sort of save the people, and she's really indebted towards these people because they are the ones who sort of like put her through schooling. They all like, you know, did fundraisers and charities and stuff to help raise money for her to be able to go to the school that helped teach her how to be a healer. I just really enjoyed this, and the relationship has a push-pull effect that I enjoyed seeing because it was like angsty and I'm like, no, please like each other, why aren't you liking each other? And I just really liked it. This is the first book that I've actually read from Elise Cover, and I am so interested that I'm going to be picking up the rest of her series. She has The Air Awakens and then The Vortex Chronicles, I think. I am so super excited to read them because I love this. I love how she wrote the characters. I love how she wrote the relationship as well between her and the main character, Eldis, I think his name is. I'm not entirely too sure, but he, woo, I love him. Really, really love this book. If you are after a quick fae romance, definitely pick this up. Alrighty, so those are my most surprising reads of 2020. Loved all of these books. I just, chef's kiss. So let me know if you guys have read any of these books down in the comments below. Let me know if you agree. What were some of your most surprising reads of 2020? Please let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear them. If you'd like to see more of me, then be sure to check out my Twitter and Instagram links down in the comments so that you don't miss out on anything, as well as clicking the subscribe button so you don't miss out on a video from me. I am posting quite a lot in the month of December, so I hope you guys are enjoying that. Be sure to click so you don't miss out on any of them, and I will see you guys in another video later on.